Hello and welcome to another The Publicity Boys Tier Maker Special. Today we are looking at the worst transfers of all time because it is currently the transfer market which is open. We did the best transfers of all time last week, so check that up there. We though are going to go through the shockers.
Yeah, some of the worst.
Sometimes better to discuss.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to have a look at, some of these are because of the fee and they just did not meet the fee. Some of them are quite humorous as well.
And most of these are quite recent, we would say. They are, in the post-92 era. I think mostly because we know more about them these days because it is told to us all the time. This transfer is terrible.
Yeah.
Whereas back, 80s, 70s, 60s, there wasn't as many transfers. They were kind of within the league.
Yeah. And the fees just weren't as significant. They were significant at times, but they weren't anywhere near as significant as they are now, where clubs near bankrupt themselves for a player who then doesn't do it.
We've chosen 12, so we're going to go through them now. We're going to start with one that hurt me at the time. It's Felipe Coutinho's move from Liverpool to Barcelona for how much?
About £121 million.
Just 121 million.
Yeah, potentially more with add-ons. I don't think the add-ons were ever met, but 120 million definitely guaranteed.
He did well enough to meet the add-ons. Now, he was at Liverpool, he was pretty sensational. He was really good.
Yeah.
And he left. When he left, he was playing his best football under Klopp.
And he had that Coutinho zone, didn't he? Just outside the box, cut inside.
Banging it. Every time.
He was amazing.
And he, for a few months, he had that. We all thought, the Liverpool famous front three was going to be the Liverpool famous front four.
Yeah.
Because he was in there as well behind him. So this is really good. And then he obviously left. Went off to Barcelona, where he obviously thought the grass was greener.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
Yeah. He had an absolutely torrid time there. And I think we are safe early on in the video to argue one of the worst transfers of all time. For the figure of the money they paid, Barcelona are effectively still paying that off, 2018. Or certainly living with the consequences of that. We've heard so much about Barcelona's financial woes and the levers they're having to pull and the salaries and all the different things they're struggling with. And it all really kicked off with the Coutinho transfer. They sell him back to Villa after loaning him there, I think,
They loaned him to Bayern, didn't they? And he scored twice against Barca. Yeah. And when they beat him,
killer. Absolute killer. That was a COVID year, I'm sure, wasn't it? Yeah.
And he was also on the pitch for Barca when they lost to Liverpool 4-0 in the comeback.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Terrible transfer. Everything about it was bad. The fee was awful. For what it means and led to was awful. And for him, really, it's tragic. His career fell apart because he came to, with Gerrard, of course, his old mate on the pitch, signed him as a player for Villa. And now he is still owned by Villa.
And he went off
and he's out on loan back to Brazil, I think it is, this year. He's still got 2 years left on a contract with significant wages. So I imagine Villa are now picking up the cost of that. It is sad, really, because he's a really likeable guy, wasn't he? But as a transfer, I think it is certainly for the fee and for what actually he led to do is one of the worst transfers of all time.
Was it horrific?
Horrific.
Right. Eden Hazard to move from Chelsea to Real Madrid. Hazard, another player who was, on his day, unplayable.
Yeah.
Incredible player.
Yeah.
You've seen him play, haven't you, live, and you were very
impressed.
By him.
Yeah, I was always, Hazard, he's good. Seeing him score a hat-trick against Cardiff City at Stamford Bridge, it was amazing. He was one of the best players I've performed.
He would have spells, though, where he was not good for a while, then he'd come back to life again.
Yeah. Yeah, and but if you listen to Chelsea fans, they say it's probably one of the best players who ever played for Chelsea in terms of talent
and
quality.
Signed for Lille, didn't they, as well? Yeah. So he was kind of a relatively
sensational, and they sold him for £103 million in 2019. So a year after Coutinho. Chelsea fans, I remember at the time, were really quite pleased with that figure they got for him because he was tailing off. He was coming to the end. I think the first season, because he's pretty consistent in terms of playing, but he'd had some injury problems. They sell him for £103 million. He's now retired.
He's retired
this year. Within 5 years of that transfer.
That's mad, isn't it?
He's gone,
and he obviously injury riddled. He was pretty injury riddled at Chelsea, but he really struggled with injuries. Yeah. He struggled
with his weight
as well.
Fair play to the man. He said, I just like food, and fair play. Who doesn't? But he struggled to keep that weight off at Real Madrid, which is something he hadn't done at Chelsea. You know, his head went. It wasn't just his body went. His head
COVID
went
went it as well during that time.
Yeah,
you know, difficult for everyone.
It's almost like whatever Barcelona can do, Real Madrid can do as well. They are like that with each other, and they obviously compete. They still do. Look at the transfers they make. Even now, they're both sort of not as well off financially.
Yeah.
And yet,
where's he going?
This is terrible. This is another horrific one for me.
Yeah, it is.
Both of them.
I think
for the figure.
That's what it is. Over 100 million. Now, my argument before, wasn't it, was that we should have the Neymar transfer in here for the worst transfer. Neymar did fine at PSG, goal scoring, you know, winning leagues because everyone won the league there. But the fact he went for 222 million euros ruined football.
Yeah, and for him, it was the grass is greener, football. Isn't it? It was, I don't want to be behind Messi. I want to be my own man. I want to be my own Messi at PSG. Now, had they won the Champions League final they got to, and a couple more attempts at it, semi-finals, maybe you'd be going, what a brilliant transfer that was, because he made that. But you're right, it spoiled football in terms of the way that the fees just exploded.
Moise Caicedo at Chelsea now for over 100 million transfer. Where's that come from? That's a shocker.
Yeah.
And Liverpool were bidding the same price.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
He's good, but he's not 100 million good. This is crazy. Anyway, Harry Maguire goes 80 million now. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Fernando Torres. This is a famous one, isn't it? Liverpool to Chelsea, sorry. Back in 2011.
Yeah, 2011.
January, wasn't it?
Deadline day.
It was probably the best deadline day ever for watching.
Yeah.
We've got another deadline day from this year coming up afterwards.
Yeah.
Torres at Liverpool was the best striker in the world for 2 years, 2007,
100%.
2009. He did have quite a few injuries.
Yeah. But it was a key part of that Spain squad as well that we talked about many times.
Went to this World Cup of Spain 2010. Wasn't great in that World Cup. He really struggled a little bit. He struggled with injuries before it. Then he comes back and he's not the same player for Liverpool. That first half of the season, 10-11 under Roy Hodgson.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not very good. He scores a big goal at Chelsea, but generally he's not having a good time. Kane Dalglish then takes over and he has a little mini renaissance, scores a few goals.
Yeah.
Well, Torres is back. And a few days later, Torres is off to Chelsea, who Liverpool fans... At the time, there was a real bitter, nasty rivalry between Liverpool and Chelsea. So the fact he went there for a credible figure, £50 million, was a bit mad. The only thing I would say is he as well was tailing off a bit.
Yeah,
and he was rubbish for Chelsea.
I remember the anger and people being so unhappy about it, and obviously because he was a brilliant player for Liverpool. But I do remember a lot of people going, "It's a good fee though for him. It's a good fee. It's a lot of money." For a player who perhaps is coming towards the end of his peak. And certainly when you look at what he did at Chelsea, he did score some goals for Chelsea. He did, without doubt, score
Europa
goals.
League, he did alright, didn't he?
Yeah. But his head, his confidence
his heart was
shot. It was shot, his confidence. That famous goal that he could have scored against United, wasn't it?
A miss, open goal.
Brilliant. Goes around the keeper thinking, here we go, tap this in, roll it home, literally tap it in. And he puts it wide, and his head's just gone.
He does score that big goal, doesn't he? Champions League semi-final.
Yeah, exactly, and that's
famous goal.
We've got to bear that in mind as well.
But they were already going through. It just sealed it, didn't it?
I don't think it's embarrassing.
What I say about Torres is now he's always as a Liverpool legend, and he'll goes back to Anfield. He plays in the Legends games.
Yeah,
he loves Liverpool. I don't think he has that same thing about Chelsea.
No. And Chelsea fans, neither would they about him. Yeah,
he was very poor. How much?
It could be how much. Although he had been very good, or is it just didn't work? It could have worked. It just didn't work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe being kind there. Yeah. Okay, fine. Right. Aliadiere is how you say it, isn't it? Apparently. Right. Aliadiere. His transfer, I don't know who he came from.
He would effectively someone like, I remember this, someone like Gateshead, something like that. Someone,
really?
Yeah, amateur level. He had been at a couple of non-league clubs in this country and abroad. The story goes, which I'm sure many people are aware of, but if you're not, in when was it, 1999? 96. In 1996. Someone rings up Graham Souness, who's the Southampton manager, or the PA, and the PA says, Graham, comes to the phone. George Ware's on the phone, who was the player, the Ballon d'Or winner, I think, that year.
Yeah.
One of the best players in the world. he says, apparently, whoever's on the end of the phone, my cousin is really interested to come to play for you. Southampton at the time and Souness were desperate for a striker. There was an injury crisis at the club. Letitia gets injured just after he signed, actually, as well, who was their only sort of hope of not being relegated that year. And so they give him a punt. They give him a week trial or a 2-week trial. He does very average, and I remember lots of the players, when you look at things on it soon, saying, we thought there's no way he's staying. He's on trial, fine. He's another body in training, basically.
Yeah.
They get so desperate, they give him a crack.
Bring him on in the game.
Letitia gets injured, and so they bring on Aliadiere, who is, he plays 53 minutes, and then he's hauled off. So the sub is subbed. That's always embarrassing, isn't it? When that happens, the sub is subbed. He is terrible. There's not a lot of footage about it, actually, and it wasn't ever broadcast because football, I suppose, wasn't broadcast as openly as it is nowadays, as much as Sky.
Shame.
And so a lot of people remember it as like, I watched that game live. It wasn't broadcast on TV, so no one would have watched it live unless you're there. But it's that sort of that memory that everyone remembers that they saw it. Because obviously afterwards it comes out that this guy was a chancer. He played for
fraudster, wasn't it?
Yeah, Gateshead, and he was a half decent amateur footballer who had said, my cousin's George Weah, he recommends me, let me come and play, and he plays in the Premier League for 53 minutes.
I mean, this is a funny one.
It's really funny. It's really, really funny.
Right, Andy Carroll. So the same day that Torres left for 50 million, Liverpool 4, we go 50 million here, we can spend it wisely.
Yes.
There's a player for Newcastle who's in a decent form at the moment.
He's got a couple of goals.
Andy Carroll. He's nothing like Torres as a player. Let's put 35 million on him.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time, I remember sitting in the 6-1 comment room and seeing this transfer. I was gutted. I was, dare I say it, Torres had left. Like, oh my gosh.
Bubbling away through the day, wasn't it?
I was like, what? Andy Carroll signing? Oh, okay, fine. 35 million?
Yeah.
And let's be honest, he was pretty awful.
He was pretty awful.
Another injury-riddled footballer. Yeah. He was always injured.
This
is such a big, hard guy. Injured.
Typical panic buy, isn't it?
Typical panic buy. The definition of a panic buy.
Yeah. We've lost our best player. They had. What do we do with it? Ring up Newcastle. Newcastle go, how much have you just received? 50 million? 35 million for Carroll.
This kind of started that whole astronomical fees for English players, I think.
Yeah.
After that moment.
Yeah, the English tax. Obviously things come in about you've got to have a certain amount of English players in the squad and things like that, and that's a factor of it. But also just desperation of other football clubs. Clubs starting to take advantage of other clubs. It becomes part of the system, really.
Part of the business.
Now, what's interesting is they also sign Suarez at the same time.
And this is what makes this transfer not as bad. Because the rest of that money from Torres, they put on Luis Suarez.
Was it about 25 million? Something like that?
It's about just over 20, I think, yeah. And he was obviously... He could have been our best transfers. He maybe not for his off the pitch stuff, but he was like obviously ridiculous levels. Probably the best player I've ever seen for Liverpool.
Goes beyond Torres really in terms of talent.
And when he was fit, Carroll, sometimes they did have a good little partnership there.
Yeah.
Carroll did score a few big goals. He scored in the final, the semi-final winner as well. But he was just poor, wasn't he?
This is definitely how much.
How much, isn't it? Now, Andy Carroll plays for Liverpool in red. And you can see there's a lovely red kit behind us. This is the Aberdeen 1983 European Cup Winners' Cup kit. And we got this because our sponsor for today's video is 3 Retro. Fantastic retro kits like this one. You can find loads of them on their amazing website from all around the world, international and clubs. You can use the code 3Retro10 to get 10% off your purchases as well, which I think is a pretty good deal.
Definitely.
And I think, you should get a hold of that.
Definitely check them out. There's a huge range of kits there. We're building our collection. Definitely go and have a look.
Yeah, fantastic. Right, moving on. Adrian Mutu to Chelsea. I think about 15 million back in 2003.
2003.
So this is Abramovich has arrived, hasn't he?
Yeah.
There's a couple of these. I'm going to move another one alongside him.
Yes, yeah.
Right, so we've got Mutu going to Chelsea and also Juan Sebastian Veron to Chelsea.
Yeah.
Abramovich has arrived. He's a Russian billionaire. Let's just throw loads of money at any player that's got a half decent reputation. Who's he from? Parma?
Parma, yeah.
Right, okay. And he's
he
pretty
was
good.
Romanian, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. So again, lesser known, I suppose.
Big reputation though, because he was big in Serie A before this.
Yeah, it was lesser known in terms of the
similar to Kesman signing.
Seeing him, yeah, exactly. You think I've never seen him play. I've heard good things, but I've never seen him play. And so there's every potential that this guy could be, a genius signing for £15 million. It could be a bargain. As it happened, he didn't score many goals. He then got a 6-month drug ban for taking a Class A drug.
Yeah.
And then left the club, broke his transfer, his contract, and Chelsea ended up suing him. And I think he owed Chelsea something like £7 million of the fee that they had to pay back himself. So in some ways they recover part of that
and
fee.
And his whole sort of career was
totally
pretty much over.
Totally
he still played, didn't he, for Romania and stuff, but his reputation was gone.
Yeah.
His potential had
potential of him being big had gone. Yeah, and that is partly of his own making, but also it is like we've seen a little bit with what Chelsea have done recently with the new system there, Todd Bowley.
Similar, isn't it?
Very similar to what Manchester United are hoping to do in terms of.
Yeah, it's a lot of Chelsea bashing. We've got quite a few Chelsea transfers.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily Chelsea bashing because unfairly, I think Chelsea fans would admit they've paid a heck of a lot of money for a heck of a lot of players that didn't always work out.
And I think embarrassing.
I think it is an embarrassing one, particularly because of the off-field stuff. And then we move on to Veron, who also signed in 2003 as well, was it? I think
the same transfer window.
Yeah, same window. £15 million. Now this is a bloke who's signed for a British record fee of around about £28 million for Manchester United 2 years before that. All right for United. Okay. 25 games a season in the Premier League, couple of goals. Came with a big potential, didn't he? We'd seen him
reputation again
on the world stage.
Argentina,
yeah, an exciting signing from Lazio. Didn't really work. 25 million or 28 million. United managed to sell him for 15 million 2 years later, which is a decent return for him for how he had done. Signing him from United was probably quite a big deal back then, if you think of it. You signed him from Sir Alex Ferguson, the guys who dominated this league, but he just doesn't work. He plays 7 times. He then spends 2 years back out on loan, seven Premier League games, back out on loan to the Serie A 2 seasons in a row, and then he's off.
Where's he going then?
I think this is an absolute waste. It's not quite in the embarrassing.
It's not. Is it how much as well?
Interesting.
50 million wasn't low. It wasn't like mad back then.
Maybe it just didn't work out.
I think that's quite nice though.
Yeah.
7 games.
Okay, stick him in embarrassing. 7 games is pretty embarrassing.
Okay.
It's another flop.
Merge it with Mutu, right?
Mutu, yeah, the pair.
Bit more of a historical one now. Ian Rush. Moved from Liverpool to Juventus in 87?
86.
It's 86.
So 86 he signs the contract. 87 he joins.
Oh, right. Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
So £3.2 million. Decent figure back then.
Yeah.
Decent figure, definitely.
He was best striking, one of the best strikers in the world at the time, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. He touts himself for a bit of a move. Obviously, Juventus are interested. Now, this is definitely for British players not very common to move abroad. Really not very common at all.
Yeah, it is random, yeah.
Signs for Juventus, but agrees to stay another season for Liverpool. Finishes the season, plays 86-87 at Liverpool. In 1987, goes and joins Juve. Sticks it out for a year. Doesn't score many goals at all. Plays something like 20 games.
Struggles with the culture and the different
very much
language.
Struggles. Now, like you said, it's one of the best players in the world we're talking about, but it just does not work out at all.
Goes back to Liverpool.
It's not a horrendous fee, and then returns. Yeah,
and is good.
Yeah.
Scores a winner in the cup final. That'll be 89 then for Liverpool.
Yeah. So I think this is another one of it just didn't work out. Yeah. Unlucky for him, unlucky for Juve. It was a good idea. Just didn't work.
And Liverpool, of course, signed his lookalike John Aldridge then to take his place. Right, Paul Pogba, Man United. We had a bit of a debate.
Yeah, we debated this one. I think this is a harsh inclusion, but I see why it's there because of the figure. Again, was it world record? Near enough world record.
I think it was a record, wasn't it?
Yeah, about 86 million pounds. Yeah. He does, for me, play 154 games for Man United in the Premier League. He's
we're not talking about Manchester United under Alex Ferguson now. We're talking about Manchester United's rubbish era.
This is the hope that this man will
banter era, as people say,
turn it around in some ways. This is the guy who we want to see.
He was touted as the best player in the world to come, wasn't it? He was like the future of football.
Yeah. I had a highlight reel in many highlight reels on YouTube and things like that, haven't you?
The YouTube footballer.
You can think of that lovely curling shot he scored that you can still remember seeing that for Juve. He came with a huge expectation on his shoulders. Now, he does okay. he doesn't live up to the fee. I think that's why we can include him there quite comfortably. Some Man United fans, I'm sure, will go, actually, he wasn't as bad as you think.
But we'd see him play for
France,
and he was always incredible.
Yeah.
And then he went to Man United, and he was nowhere near the same
Didn't translate it, yeah.
And I think his attitude wasn't amazing.
No.
And then he leaves, I think, for a free, doesn't he?
Yeah, it goes back to Juve, and obviously, again, embroiled in various scandals. Can't play because of...
Isn't it? Man United had him as a youth player.
Yes.
Juventus bought him for really cheap.
Yeah.
Then sold him back to Man United for a world record fee.
Yeah.
Got him back on a free.
Yeah. Pretty shameful, really, for United in that way.
How much?
I think it's how much because of the factor in there.
I remember at the time, though, everyone was saying that. Well, that's quite a lot of money for him.
Yeah, and again, it's very... British clubs didn't pay that fee, Real Madrid...
Man United as a club have kind of done that a lot since then.
Yeah, they've been a lot of
Anthony
money.
could be in this.
Yeah.
He's still there, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I want
Harry
Anthony
Maguire, they're worth 80 million plus. That's mad fees for those kind of players. Right, moving on then. Danny Drinkwater. He was in the same team as N'Golo Kante, who was in our best transfer video. He was excellent that season for Leicester. He was, in that midfield. He was the person who just kept the ball ticking over.
Yeah, I don't know, what do you call him? A Jordan Henderson type?
Quite a lot
like that.
Yeah, I don't think he's quite in that league either.
But for Leicester, he was that figure. First name on the team sheet wasn't
a lot of long balls over the top to Jamie Vardy, wasn't it?
Yeah. I remember he signed on loan for Cardiff City when he was a Manchester United youth player. And he was rubbish. Obviously, you remember the name. Drinkwater is a fairly rememberable name, and he was rubbish. He was rubbish for us. And he signed for Leicester, and I think everyone thought again, it wasn't very good. And then he was fantastic in that league-winning season. Understandably, then I suppose gets a move. But I think what everyone did was pick off Leicester players there, going, well, maybe he was the reason they won the league. Maybe he was the reason they won the league. Kante for Chelsea becomes huge.
That season.
I think there we go. We've got the stats.
I think he might have
2017. So he played one more year, and then moves. Or did he go in the January? Perhaps he went in the January of 2017.
Don't know, but 34.1 million is a crazy fee.
It's a crazy fee.
How much?
Riyad Mahrez was brilliant. Kante was brilliant. He wasn't brilliant, and then he, I think, plays a handful of games at best.
The Leicester tax it was at the time.
He goes and plays for Burnley and people like that, and I think also has retired this summer potentially.
There we go.
Well, certainly he's a free agent. If not, how much?
How much? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, here we go. One of the that's got to be the funny one, isn't it? Jonathan Woodgate to Real Madrid. Now I was looking for the picture to put in this earlier, and there's the famous picture of him signing. I think it's Di Stefano is welcoming him into the club, and he's holding the shirt with him. Di Stefano's looking at him like,
"Who are you?
Who are you?"
Yeah.
And obviously, Jonathan Woodgate was a good player for Leeds. He was a decent player for Newcastle as well.
Yeah, he's a reasonable footballer. He's a centre back. I don't know.
You could see him maybe as a decent squad player.
Yeah. Just think of the current England squad.
He was a bit injury prone though as well, like a lot of these players actually.
Yeah. Maybe he's a Lewis Dunk. He was younger than Lewis Dunk, but he was no more than a Lewis Dunk. He was all right. He was fine. Real Madrid.
Harry Maguire.
Yeah, a Harry Maguire then, I suppose. But for Newcastle, who wasn't at, weren't at the level that they are competing in again now, really. I remember just go and pay 13 million for him.
13 was it?
Yeah, so it's not a staggering fee.
This is the time they had Beckham.
Yeah.
Owen. And then Woodgate.
They had Manningham as well. So they've gone to the well for the English. I think what's so funny about him is he's famous. His infamous debut. Really.
Well, he's injured when he signs. Yeah. He doesn't play for ages.
Yeah.
Then the long anticipated debut happens.
Yeah.
And what is it? Own goal and red card, was it?
Own goal, red card, I think within a half.
That's a really good own goal as well, if I remember rightly.
And it's pretty much that's his career, really. He does play.
And that's what he's remembered for now.
Yeah, absolutely. If you say to Jonathan Woodgate, I talked about it in work today, I was asked the question there, do you remember some of the worst transfers of all time? He came straight up. Yeah.
Funny.
It was funny, yeah. Sorry, Jonathan Woodgate. I don't know what he's doing now.
Finally, maybe a bit of a harsh inclusion, Robbie Keane's youthful transfer to Inter Milan from... Who from? Coventry?
From Coventry, yeah. Coventry City, yeah.
Okay.
Coventry City.
This is a player who's played for a lot of clubs.
Yes.
And this was always, when you look, if you go on Wikipedia or something, look at his list, you're like, oh yeah. Inter? When was he there?
Yeah.
You see, he had 6 games in the league there.
Yeah, and then came
Didn't
back home.
score.
Yeah.
Struggled massively.
Yeah. A lot of potential, this guy, when he was at Coventry. It was only 13 million, but now he's only 13 million. In
quite a lot,
2000, to the millennium,
him,
13 million is a lot of money for a youth player. A lot of potential. He, Inter Milan, fair play. Take a punt on this young Irishman who's done reasonably at Coventry. It just doesn't work. He plays 6 games and he comes home again, and has a decent career, I suppose. He's very good for Spurs, not very good for Liverpool.
Good for Leeds.
Decent for LA Galaxy when he goes there, and does quite well in America.
Yeah, he's well respected now, isn't he?
It's a difficult one, but it just doesn't work. I think it's a straightforward. It's like a rush. Maybe British Irish people, we just don't cope very well abroad.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Right, so it's our final list. The worst 2 transfers of all time are Felipe Coutinho to Barcelona for over 120 million, and then Eden Hazard to Real Madrid for over 100 million.
Yeah.
2 shockers there.
Yeah, and you still can't separate those El Clasico
fees.
clubs.
No, there we go. Moving on down, it's embarrassing how much funny and just didn't work. So let us know what you think in the comments below. Let us know if any shocking transfers that we missed. What would you put as the worst transfers of all time? I'm sure there's loads linked to your respective clubs. I can think of 100 off the bat for Liverpool right now. Yeah. I'm sure Cardiff City have had a fair few stinkers.
Yeah.
There we go. That's our final list. Hopefully you really enjoyed that video. Please subscribe for more of them. Please check out 3 Retro in the description below as well for that amazing discount. And you can have a go at this tier maker as well in that description too. Anything you'd like to add?
No.
No? There you go then. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again next time.